here, you know, and when you introduce somebody that you hung around a lot with, and then of course you idolized quite a bit growing up, you got to have a story. So I got a story of, and this tells you how recruiting has changed over the years, but I grew up in this little northwest Iowa town, and growing up on Saturday nights, we watched college wrestling in Iowa. Iowa State and Iowa predominantly were the teams that were on TV. Now, this is the late 70s, so I'm going to sound really old here, but you grew up watching Iowa wrestling, Iowa State wrestling, and then sometimes if you got lucky, you saw them beat up on Oklahoma or Oklahoma State. That was probably pretty much it, about 5 or 6 schools. So obviously growing up as a wrestler in Iowa who really liked wrestling, Iowa had just won, I think, their 4th national championship, consecutive national championship, when I was a junior in high school. And luckily for me, the University of Iowa started calling me a little bit and started recruiting me a little bit. Now, I wasn't a blue chip recruit guy, but just the whole fact that I was getting a phone call from the University of Iowa and I was getting letters from the University of Iowa, I thought I was big time. I thought I was really big time, like a lot of these high school guys in here. You know the feeling. So I kind of went down the road, and they're starting recruiting me a little bit more and more. And I really hadn't talked to this guy much. He had a guy named John Marks who was the recruiter. And John Marks came and watched me wrestle a couple times, and he sent me some letters. Then all of a sudden I get a call from Dan Gable. Now when you're a 17-year-old kid and you pick up the phone, there weren't cell phones in those days. When they call your house and the other line says, "This is Dan Gable," you lose your breath for a little bit there. You either think somebody's punking you or else you lose your breath. And I lost my breath. But Coach Gable told me that he was coming to Humboldt, where I grew up, to see me. And this was, the signing date was coming up, and he was going to come see me, and I'm sure he probably remembers part of this story, but I remember it all because Dan Gable was coming to my house. And so him and his wife, Kathy, we went out to dinner one evening. I think it was a Monday night or a Tuesday night. And Coach Gable and his wife ate dinner with my family. And that night, and the next day was signing day. And so Coach Gable and his wife just stayed overnight at our house. And you could never do that this day and age. You'd get thrown in jail. The NCAA would throw you in jail right away if you tried to pull that off. So not only did I have Coach Gable coming to my house, I had him staying overnight. Him and his wife slept in my bed. True story, all right? True story. The next morning, do you remember that, Gable?
Not with you.
No. Not with me, no. But his 3rd daughter was born 9 months afterwards, so I'm still hanging on to that story. So. Molly was 9 months later, I think. So. I'm going with it. There was nothing illegal about that. The rule is that the coach could stay overnight at your house, and whatever he wanted to do at your house while he was there wasn't illegal either. So Coach Gable, his wife, stayed overnight, and that morning at 7:30 on my kitchen table, I signed my national letter of intent to go to the University of Iowa. So that's my story with Coach Gable, and I'm sticking to it right there, okay? But with that said, let's bring up, by the way, let me tell you, I think there's a lot of people know about Coach Gable in here. 181-1, he lost once, just at the very end. We won't go into that. He was an Olympic champ, 2-time national champ. They only let him wrestle 3 years back in those days. Won 15 out of 21, is that right, Coach Gable? 15 out of 21 NCAA titles as a coach, which completely blows my mind now that I'm doing this for a living. So with that said, I'll finish on that. Let's bring up Coach Dan Gable. Thanks.